I'm here with Charlie Banks, one of the most interesting new people in the space, in my opinion. What he does, he has an Amazon agency that specializes in design, conversion rate optimization, images, A plus content, everything that you see visual that you want, that makes you want to click on Amazon. He does that. Just wanted to interview him and speak with him about Amazon and e-commerce and how things are going to progress and his journey in general. So this is Charlie. Charlie, I hope I introduced you well.
Thank you very much. Yeah, great. Yeah, thank you for having me on. Yeah, how are you doing? All good?
Yeah, I'm doing great, doing great. Q4 busy time for both of us, I bet.
Of
Yeah,
course.
I spoke with Charlie last week because he popped on my Instagram reel and he was showing a listing. I think it was a pet supplement listing, how you should do it and how many people don't. How, for example, a good listing is selling a lot, and he kind of breaks it down. It's one of the better breakdowns that I've seen. What a lot of people forget is that PPC advertising on Amazon is super important, but if you're bringing traffic to a bad listing, it's just not going to work as well, especially now in 2025 more than ever.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think, how competitive Amazon is nowadays, so important to be building a great brand. And I think not just only on Amazon, but off of Amazon as well, building that brand awareness off of the platform and bringing in organic traffic. And the competition is so high nowadays that you can't get away with mediocre design, not just in the sort of branding and packaging, but your listing as well. So yeah, so important, especially in those big niches like pet supplements and human supplements. Differentiation in terms of your branding and packaging is absolutely key.
How did you get started on Amazon? Like, how did you, and not only how did you get started on Amazon, how did you decide to focus on design and images?
Yeah, so I guess so. It all started. I've actually been a full-time DJ
Oh, wow.
before kind of getting into the e-commerce space, and I was DJing full time for the best part of 10 years, a lot in London, but have played all over the world, South America, Asia, Ibiza. And I think sort of towards the end of my career, I'm still DJing as a hobby and here and there. I got to a point where I was getting a bit tired of, DJing every weekend and was wanting to do something else. I've always been quite entrepreneurial and interested in business, and was kind of looking for maybe another business that I could set up and something I could do alongside DJing that maybe I could go into further down the line. And I was at a wedding, about 4 or 5 years ago, and one of the people that I was staying with at the wedding, on his table, there was a guy sat next to him, got chatting to him, what do you do for a living? And he was a full-time Amazon seller.
Oh, wow.
Did well off the back of it. So that was the kind of first time, or that it sort of got my attention.
Yeah.
So coming back from that wedding, did the classic, looked it up on YouTube, started watching a few different videos, then a few kind of ads popped up on my Instagram page, and signed up to a course. Went through the process of learning how to launch products. Launched my first brand, I think around 4 years ago, which
Wow.
was a tumbler brand. So it's a bit like the Stanley Cup, pretty well for a year, 18 months. And kind of off the back of the success of my first brand, the course that I took, they said, oh, do you want to come on and coach part-time for our new members? Obviously, you've just been through the process. You can help new members with, advice and things that you've learned on your journey so far. So off the back of my kind of first brand success, which I'm not actually running anymore, started coaching for this online community. From there, really, I was working with lots of new sellers, and a few of them in particular, they're either going to Fiverr or Upwork and doing their branding and packaging design and listing design on a budget, and a lot of the time it not being very good.
Of course.
Or on the other hand, there were a couple of people that were going to those bigger agencies, spending thousands of dollars on the work, and again thinking, it's not the money that they're paying. It's not mind-blowingly good. So that was really where I got the idea from. I've always had an interest in branding and design and sort of the creative side, especially, being from music as well. I've always been creative. And really from that, it kind of gave me the idea of, setting up a design agency for new brands and existing sellers as well.
Mhm.
And being able to provide all of your branding, packaging, label design, if it's a supplement, and your full Amazon listing design. We also do, lifestyle photography as well, although
Oh, wow.
that's not a kind of main focus of ours like some of the other, I don't know if Sooner in the US that are sort of dedicated towards, product photography. But if a client needs that, we're able to provide that as well. So it's really a full service creative agency for Amazon e-com brands that can take sellers through the entire journey from day one of branding and your logo designs all the way up through to a complete listing essentially.
And I think that's what a lot of brands are missing. That I see brands that are D2C on Shopify, they usually have a better creative, but brands that are Amazon native, their creative is very bad. And a
Yeah,
better image will always make you perform better. There's no downside. And I think one place where most brands try to save money, it's design. And that's a place that is the last place I would save money, because that's the foundation of everything. If you
yeah,
have a
for
good
sure.
design, if you have a good product, if you stand out from the crowd and your main image is powerful, I mean, it's going to do so much better for you. Your advertising is going to do better for you. Like, it's only positives. And the good thing with creative especially, it's not a one-time investment, right? Because you need to optimize it every so often, but still the return on investment is so big if you do it right. If you have to do it on the budget, I might as well spend more on there instead of going very cheap, because then it's going to hurt me and I'm going to spend more on ads, because in the back end when you're doing ads, you're going to spend so much more. Like, let's say something is $2,000 and you decide, I'll go with Fiverr, it's $500, but your ads are not going to perform as well. So in the long term, you're going to do a lot worse.
Yeah, completely. I think I think people get so invested in ordering X amount of, units, and they spend so much time on that side of things that when they get to the design side, they kind of overlook that. But in reality, especially for things like supplements, that is the thing that is going to sell your product. So
Agreed.
you can have the best product in the world. And I always say this to people, and obviously, there's a lot more to it than just these two things. But I think the two key things to a successful product and brand on Amazon is, one, finding a good supplier and having a great product. That's obviously first and foremost. If you've got a crap product,
Yeah.
it might, and if you've got a crap product, it will fail ultimately. So you need to find a great supplier and source a great product. But you also need to pair that with a great brand and a great listing. You can't really have one or the other. You can have the best product in the world, but if the listing and the brand isn't very good, it won't sell. But you could also have the best brand and listing in the world, but if the product's a load of rubbish, then it might perform well to begin with. But obviously, as bad reviews flow in, ultimately that product will fail. So the key, the two key things, I think, in my opinion, is having a great brand and listing, and having a great product.
I agree 100%. Because if everything is good, but the product is not, you're going to find out pretty quickly the product is an issue. And actually having a good listing and good PPC strategy, it will make you fail faster, because you're going to get more sales, more velocity, and then the product is going to crash even faster, which is better. At least you're not going to waste your time for a year trying to fix everything else when the product is the issue. So let's say I'm coming as a seller, have a brand, and my question is this. So what is the biggest impact? Is it the main image? Is it the A+ content? Is it the SEO part? What, in your opinion, that you've seen, gives the biggest leverage in sales?
I think the main image is a really key part, especially in those bigger niches. Being able to stand out and cut through the kind of noise of everyone else. If you're not able to do that effectively, then your click-through rate's not going to be as good as what it should be. And essentially, if no one's clicking through to your listing, it doesn't matter how great your listing and SEO is. It's irrelevant. So
I agree.
I think really main images is obviously key. Listing images paired with that as well, I think, are the two real key fundamentals on that side of things.
Yeah, it's a great point. And if you think about Amazon's customer journey, even your own, you don't really go through all the images most of the times. Like, most people look at the price, look at the reviews, look at the main image, they click on it, and they pretty much bought it once they're there. As
Yeah,
long as you don't mess up that transaction, you're right. Because people don't even read descriptions unless it's a very specific product for your health, or it's something super specific that you need to really look at the fine print. Most products, like supplements, and we've done an analysis with a lot of a lot of the brands we work with a lot of people in general. The title is many times almost the description. People read the title, read the bullet points, and look at the main image. That's the
yeah,
majority of how everyone buys on Amazon and anywhere else, of course. So over spending on anything else, especially if you don't have the budget, I don't think it makes sense. Now, if you have the budget and if you can do it, I will do A+ premium. I would like
yeah,
do brand story, everything from A to Z, because it won't hurt. But if you don't have a great main image, doing all of that doesn't make much sense. It's
No,
just
of
extra
course.
money.
And I think a lot of people, especially new, people that I speak to, and they think that their listing's not performing as well as what it should do. They think, oh, we haven't got A+ content on our listing, or I need to hire a PPC manager, and they think of all of these different things, but really it's because the fundamentals aren't right. Their main image isn't optimized. Their listing images aren't crafted in a way that sells their product properly. You need to nail the basics first before looking at those other things, A+, brand story, maybe optimizing PPC campaigns as well. Because if you're essentially sending traffic to a listing that doesn't work, then you're just going to be burning through more cash. I think things like A+, it's all marginal gains when you get to that point. They will make a difference. Is it the be all and end all of, the key thing that's going to drive your product forward? Probably not, but all of these things add up together can make an increase in conversion. But I think it's nailing those key fundamentals of having a great brand, great main image, and listing images, especially for supplements. If people are going onto the listing, getting the key points of the products across as effectively as possible, not having too much text on there that's maybe going to put people off, or they need to just know exactly what they're getting instantly, essentially.
How long has the agency been around? I think it's fairly new, right? It's about a year.
Yeah, it's about just coming up to 18 months we've been going.
Oh, well, congrats. And how many clients have you worked with so far? I think it's a fair amount.
Yeah, it's the best part of 100 brands that we've worked with over the last 18 months, but a real mix of new sellers all the way through to working with established brands as well, on kind of listing overhauls and rebrands as well. There's a client that I'm working with at the moment that's doing really well, but the branding is outdated. So we've updated all that for him, and then we're now currently working through his listings to improve on those as well.
To be such a young agency to work with so many brands is impressive. And I think there's a real niche and a real space and opportunity in what you're doing. Because you do only that, you really can specialize and do it much better. And a great point of, you said a brand that is doing very well still wants their listing to be overhauled because they understand it's not updated, it's not current. That's, I think, what a lot of these brands that do well, they get separated from the smaller brands because they're always on the ball. Even if they perform well, they still want to do their images and look even better, and they're always aiming for those gains. That's, I think, a huge difference.
Yeah, for sure. And I think maybe that specific brand, when he launched, maybe did go to a Fiverr or an Upwork and did it on a bit more of a budget. Brand is doing well, but he knows that it could be doing even better. So I think he's at a stage now where he can really elevate that to another level, and go through it as he's growing and launching more products. I think he's now at a point where, he wants to really improve all of the listings and have it as best as it can possibly be.
I think that's a major point. It's all about framing to a certain extent, right? If you want your product to be bought and you want to give that premium feeling, but you're not passing it through the images and the creative, people are just not going to believe you. People buy but what they see, not what they really read, especially when it comes to products. If all the title and description says this is a premium product, it has good reviews, but then the image doesn't look great, it's just not gonna do as well as if everything matches.
Yeah, you have to be able to do it justice. If you want to be a premium brand, you need to and charge premium prices. You need to back it up with premium design and listings.
How many of your clients are in the UK, in the US, in Europe, or is it mostly UK?
I would say it's probably 60% UK, 40% US, around that. So that's the kind of split I would say. It's mostly UK, but we do work with US brands as well.
What do you see difference-wise between these two countries?
It's hard to say, really. I think in the US, I think there's bigger opportunities in random niches. You come across products that just do really, really well in the US that wouldn't do as well in the UK. There's obviously more competition in the US in certain niches, but I think there's opportunities in niches that just wouldn't do well in that UK market. I think that's the key thing. And I think another good thing that people are able to do if they are looking to launch in the UK is cross-reference their niche in the US, see what's doing well there, take inspiration from products and listings, and use that to, especially things like main images as well. Go and see what is performing well in the US and maybe look to replicate that in their niche in the UK. So I think obviously size, there's a lot more opportunity in the US in those random niches that just wouldn't perform as well. But that they're I would say the key things for me.
Yeah, I agree 100%. The US is much bigger, 10 times the market. And if you look at the bestsellers in the UK in a certain category and the bestsellers in the US in a certain categories, their numbers are so different. Here it might be 500,000 a month, and there might be 3 million a month, 4 million a month.
Yeah,
Yes,
completely.
advertising is more expensive to a certain extent, and also the US, the way the buy box rotates is a bit different in the UK because the UK is such a small country compared to the US. In the US, if my stock is in Delaware and you're buying from Los Angeles, it's going to be very different the way you see me and even the delivery. So it's very different from an operational standpoint. I mean, clients that we work in the US, even when they do the FBA shipments, they get split and they have the placement fee, so it's different. But it's a huge opportunity. I think an opportunity that's incredibly underrated right now is Europe. Because if you look at Europe, if you go to Germany, which is the biggest market in Europe, and even if you
Yeah,
go to Italy, you're going to see that they're very behind the times. They don't really advertise much, and if they do, it's very basic. Their listings don't look great. So because it's newer platforms there, and they're not as popular in the UK and the US. So I think if you're a new brand and you have figured out the UK, you can use the Pan U program, or you can ship directly to Germany. And I think it's a huge
yeah.
opportunity for brands to do that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think another thing that is good to do is, launch in the UK, test proof of concept, build up some good reviews, and then transfer your listing to the US when you've maybe got a bit more of a budget, or you're looking to expand. Your test proof of concept in the UK, get it going there, and then transfer over to that US market when you're ready.
Yeah, I agree. And I think many times it's not about having 20 different products. It's about, okay, I have 3 to 5 winning products. Instead of getting another five to the UK, why don't I go to the US or why don't I
Yeah.
go to Europe? And I'm going to triple, 5x my business if the products work. And it's not going to be as much headache as having another 3 to 5 product lines.
Yeah, for sure. Again, I think, AG1's a good example of this. One SKU, I think they might have just launched a couple of flavor variations, but, they're worth hundreds of millions just off that one SKU, doing it really, really well. So it's not always a case of more products equals more revenue. It's kind of doubling down on what works, expanding, and really making the most of, that one SKU and getting the most out of it.
I think variation is a very big hack. Actually, using variation is a big hack because it's the same product, but it's a different flavor. So I think using variations, it's a great test because your cost per goods are not really going to increase because the same product, just a different variation. And what you see, someone, as you said, for your example, they might have 5 different flavors, but it's really one product.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everything else, shipment, it's very similar.
But
So
yeah,
I think,
I was going to
yeah,
say AG1. They've only just, I think, however many years they've been going, they've only just launched a couple of new flavors. It's just been that one SKU for years, and it's only now that they're branching out into a couple of different flavor variations. So it's
because they're one of the first to kind of get into that space and become so big.
yeah, exactly. I think whether they are the leader, but again, I think they are on Amazon, but it's building that awareness off of the platform. Leveraging influencers that's really built that demand for the product, and they're able to justify that higher price point for the product
Of course.
because of what they've built.
Which brands do you see that you're like, okay, they really know their stuff from a branding standpoint and they really look great and they're doing things right on Amazon?
I think a listing. There's a couple that sort of spring to mind. I think one is Loop earplugs.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've come across them before. I think that's a great brand. I mean, it's in terms of a product, I feel like you can't get much better than that. It's small and lightweight. It's really just it's an earplug. So I mean, the landed cost on something like that is super low. The margin's great on it. Yeah, it's the perfect product in terms of that. They've built an amazing brand. Their listings are solid. So I think that's a really good.
And they're quite expensive. If you look at the price of their
Yeah, I mean, 20 odd pounds for something that's probably costing them 50
pound.
cents, 50. Yeah,
Exactly, if that, you're right. And
yeah,
probably their volume even less. And they have
yeah,
collaborations with Formula One. They're really doing extremely well. And the crazy part is not a product you really reorder. Like you get it once and until it breaks. I
yeah,
agree.
yeah, exactly. The other one is Siri toothbrushes. Came across their listings a couple of months ago, and again, that's another really well optimized listing. The main image is solid. It kind of gets across the key points. They've got a Trustpilot review badge on their main image. I don't know how legal that is with Amazon, but they've got a really great main image. The listings are solid. I think the two that stand out for me, that's off the top of my head, are Loop and Siri.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I do think Amazon is one of those, now TikTok shop as well, but Amazon, the great thing about Amazon, if you look at the bestsellers in every category, not everyone is a major company. Like a lot of them are Amazon brands only, and they're killing it. The good thing about Amazon is that if your conversion rate is great, if you're sending the right signal to Amazon and people are liking your product, you can dominate. Even bigger brands, like even brands that are better funded than you because you understand the game much better. You know how to optimize, you know how to advertise on Amazon. If you go to something like Google PPC, it doesn't really happen. Meta ads doesn't really happen. To the same point, with Amazon, you can really outcompete a lot of the bigger boys if you understand the platform very well, and of course, if you have a good product.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, you come across this all the time, big household names. You look at their listings on Amazon and they're complete garbage. So, but then, they've got to that point where their brand sells at the end of the day.
True.
But I think if you really know what you're doing, you're able to go into certain niches, again, standing out and differentiating, working out, going into a certain niche, working out the ideal customer avatar and creating a brand or a product that speaks directly to them. You go, again, looking at supplements, there's so many niches that you kind of look at and it's all the same generic brands across the board. There's no one speaking to a certain audience. And I think that's so important now, is if you are launching a product, look into who's buying it and build a brand that speaks directly to them instead of trying to cater for all and coming up with kind of generic branding and just sort of middle of the road stuff. Really find out who is buying your product and build something for them.
Amazon every year is getting bigger and it's becoming a more mature platform. So the more corners you cut, the worse you're going to do. Now you really need to do your research. You really need to have good listings. It helps. Now you can do well without them. You can, but you can do much better if you do them. Like these big brands that we're talking about, they're leaving so much money on the table. Like I spoke with a potential client about a couple of weeks ago, and they're like a massive supplement company. Like they're doing 100 million plus. But
Yeah.
on Amazon, doing so badly for what they can do, right? Like their return on ads is like 15 times. And they're
Yeah.
not really doing ads. They're like having one or two auto campaigns. But because the brand is recognized, but it's difficult to really explain to people who are not native to it, is you don't realize how much potential there is. I showed them an example of competitors and said, you don't even know these guys and they're doing 10x your sales with a much smaller brand and a budget. Because it's really that different.
Yeah, and I think those bigger brands, they're on Amazon, but they're not utilizing it as well as what they should. And
Yeah,
you
agreed.
know, customers and people they go to Amazon to buy products because it's next day delivery, it's free delivery with Prime. People are going there and buying these brands, because it's easy. And I
Yeah.
think if they're not utilizing that, then they're just leaving money on the table. I think, it's so important to be on there. They want, without a doubt, be losing revenue by not being on there and just utilizing the platform. Even if they're making however much running Meta ads or, Google, being on Amazon is crucial. And I think it is overlooked by a lot of people for sure.
I agree. And for me, thinking of brands that are not on Amazon, like someone like Gymshark not being on Amazon and many other big brands not being on Amazon, it makes my head spin because I do understand maybe they want to protect their brand, but really going on Amazon, it's going to probably generate them a couple of 100 million at the size they are, right? If you go on the market, so
Yeah.
it's going to double their business in a year just by going on Amazon. And from what I've seen, being on Amazon gives you more credibility, not less, because the platform that's the number one trusted is Amazon. Recently made an order from a website, known website. They were pushing meta ads like crazy. I mean, just to get a hold of them because I made the wrong order, just to get a hold of them to cancel took 2 days. Refund took another 5 days. On Amazon, that would never happen. Like I
No.
could cancel right away, to the point that Amazon is, if I get the item, I can get an A to Z claim and still get refunded, which is crazy, right? They're pushing it from that side, but Amazon is so crazy about making sure that the customer service is top notch that I think websites cannot replicate that. They don't have the resources for it,
No,
and of course
completely.
the fulfillment.
Yeah, and I think it's the same goes for new brands as well. Is I think just being across everything nowadays is so important. Amazon is super competitive if you're just on Amazon alone.
Yeah,
But if you can really build a brand that's on TikTok Shop, that has a Shopify store, that has, you're on Amazon, people, like I said, naturally gravitate towards Amazon to buy their products. That's bringing, free organic traffic to your brand and branded search.
exactly.
And I think, yeah, if you really are serious about building a brand nowadays, it's so crucial to be across all platforms.
If exactly, and if you're at a certain size, it's literally free distribution Because if you're doing
Yeah,
well on your website, people are already searching for you on Amazon, and competitors are
exactly.
probably bidding on those branded keywords. You go on Amazon, you're going to do well organically, and you're probably going to get some customer for your website as well. If they really like your brand, they're like, you know what, let me check their website. I'm actually curious what they do. And you might get a customer actually directly. I
Yeah,
think you should be on TikTok Shop, Temu, Amazon, eBay, like every platform there is traffic on, you should be. And of course, you need to have your system in place. You need to be able to fulfill all the orders. But if you can, it's extra revenue for not much payment wise.
100%. And even, even for a new seller,
Yeah,
even if you just start on two, build a Shopify store and be on Amazon,
yeah.
nail those and then launch on TikTok Shop, and build out from there. So I think being on at least two platforms to start with is super important. And then, yeah, building out from there is, once you're ready, you're able to do that.
And I think now e-commerce is probably the biggest opportunity it's ever been because there's so many platforms. And I mean, a couple of days ago, Amazon actually said there is a reduction in the small and light. For Amazon to reduce fees, I think it was like something like 29 or 27p, pretty significant.
Yeah.
The fact I think Amazon is doing that because of the competition, because it sees TikTok Shop, it sees Temu, it sees Shane really going for that market share. And I've always said Amazon being a monopoly is not good for anyone. Amazon being one of the biggest platforms, great, but having competition and brands to be able to go to other platforms, I think it's beneficial for all of us.
I completely agree. Then, if you look on, say, TikTok Shop or obviously Temu as well, the price point is a lot lower. And I
Yeah,
think Amazon are that monopoly, and I think it will be hard for anyone to beat them with their
agreed,
just
agreed.
how they operate. But that's not to say that they can't lose some of their market share to other platforms. So I guess competition is only a good thing, reducing fees on Amazon. So yeah, it's only a good thing for Amazon sellers that there's competition elsewhere as well.
I agree with what you said. Amazon is super strong. Like in any point, like the way they operate it, it's not chance. The how they dominated in the early 2000 Google PPC, they still do. The whole thing of how they became the monopoly they are right now, it's almost to be studied. The FBA, I still haven't seen any platform being able to match FBA. The
No,
Prime batch, I've never seen anyone.
it's
Like I
just, yeah,
ordered the product, yeah,
the distribution that they've got, in yeah, all over the world. It's just, it's hard to compete with that. I don't know how anyone could come in and do what they've done. Even that's the beauty of it. Though that's why Amazon's so great, because yeah, next day delivery. You can order a product now and get it. I ordered something this morning and it's going to be here by tonight.
yeah, because
No
you're in
one
London. So in
Yeah,
London,
no one else can compete with that.
that's what the customer wants is the speed. People are so used to the next day that if your website and you're sending like in 3 to 4 days, people start complaining. That's why you see now a lot of websites, they start doing the next day, the 24 hours, the special guaranteed delivery, because nobody wants to wait anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's why that's why high streets in the UK as well are falling apart, or have fallen apart. Especially in smaller towns. Yeah, it's just there's no need to venture out of your house to go and pick up a household item when you can just get it on Amazon and have it delivered by that night or by the next morning.
It's an unfair advantage, but that's the game, right? It's an unfair advantage. Is if you have a retail shop in a small town, you can only fit and have an amount of selection product wise. Amazon, you have everything you need, so you can't really compete with that. And the overheads they have, it's just very difficult to compete with them. I think the physical shops that will stay are probably Tesco's and Aldi's and the bigger ones that sell essentials and food and water. That's what I think will really stay maybe for a longer term. But everything else will
Yeah,
struggle significantly.
100%. I think it already has.
Of course,
Go anywhere up and down the UK, and high streets are just
yeah,
nothing compared to what they used to be. So
exactly.
it's sad, really, because it's part of a community, of a town that's just not there anymore. And you walk, I grew up near Bournemouth, and Bournemouth town centre nowadays is just completely boarded up. Where growing up there 15 years ago, it was a great town and really vibrant. But it's just lost that completely with over the space of a few years.
I agree. And look, retail shops and retail centers really change city centers. And now you're right, most city centers in Europe and in the Western world are not what they used to be. All the money that was coming from the retail and the high street is not there anymore because it doesn't really exist.
Yeah.
I think the move for retail shops and high street is to turn those to fulfillment center, do TikTok live, do whatnot, and fulfill from there, but not actually to be front facing. I think that's really the play for them.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. I think, yeah, I've never really thought about that before. But yeah, I guess that's another thing as well. I was at the Alibaba conference in London a couple of weeks ago, and I think live shopping on TikTok Shop is the next big wave that people need to be jumping on. I don't know a huge amount about it. I know you had Johnny on the podcast.
Yeah.
Was it last week? I know obviously with his brand, he's pushing that hard and doing well from it. So I think a lot of brands will follow in the UK
100%.
over in 2026 for sure.
Well, in China is huge. What people don't
Yeah,
realize in China
massive.
is a major, major thing. Like billions and billions and billions is coming from live shopping. In Europe, is not as big. In the US, is bigger. But this is just the start. And if you look at a platform like Whatnot, which is not really famous in the UK, massive in the US. I mean, I have friends. I've had clients that were selling 1,000 plus a day with 2 to 3 hours of live, and this is in the UK. So that shows you how big it is. It's free in the sense that you don't have to pay to go live. And if you have a good personality, and that's a big advantage, because with the listing, you cannot show up the personality of the founder on a live sale or whatever you're doing live show. If you have a good personality working for you, or you as a founder, you're a good personality, I mean, you can really explode it because people are going to come and buy it for you.
Yeah, for
That's
sure.
amazing.
I think founder-led brands is a big one now. And again,
100%.
going back to Johnny with what he's doing, he's not afraid to sort of hide behind it and just be a faceless brand. I think being a personality and being the face of your own brand that sells, and people buy into people at the end of the day. And if you're confident enough to be the face of your brand, that will, without doubt, help you out compared to not doing that essentially.
If you think about the last 20 years of brands, Gymshark, Represent, uh,
Yeah,
Prime, Launchly, and Mr. Beast chocolates, there's like a good amount of Sour Stripes. All of these
yeah,
are personality led, and these are big brands. A lot of them are billion pounds and dollars brands now. Compared to, yes, Coca Cola was built very differently, but the game has changed. I'm not saying you still can build a faceless brand, but it's a smaller advantage. If you can build a founder led, someone to put your face, it's a huge opportunity.
100%. Yeah, I completely agree there. Not everyone's comfortable doing it.
And
Some
that's where
people
the
don't
advantages
want
are.
to do that, which I guess is understandable. But I think if you have got that personality to be able to do that, it's well worthwhile for
I
sure.
mean, you see it in the services as well. I mean, agencies and other services, it's a great example. Like the agencies and the services that have a phase, they put content down, they're known. The level of trust is different because everything I tell nowadays is trust. And if you think about 2025, the level of trust for absolutely everything, especially service, is at an all-time low because there's so many grifters, there's so many people selling you courses, over-promising you, under-delivering. So if you put your face and people trust you, you're going to get not only better clients, but better reputation and better everything.
Yeah, 100%. Obviously, with what I do on social media, I think an ad pops up with something that I'm discussing in the Amazon space. I think the difference is I'm not selling a course where I think a lot of people get these ads pop up with someone in front of their Lamborghini saying, "Oh, buy my course. I'm making millions a year." I'm not targeting them. I'm targeting people that are about to launch their first products and they want to get as much information as possible, and giving away useful information to them on branding, listing design, and everything creative within the Amazon e-com space hopefully builds me as a person of trust within the space. And it's a great way to find new clients and work with new brands.
I think it's the best way because it's not as because when you're running ads, right? It's a bit not easier, but you pay this, you get this amount of leads. With
Yeah,
brand and content, it's slower, but long term, it's much better because the bigger brands I know they don't really run ads.
no.
Especially I'm saying personal brands, right? And if they do, it helps them so much more because the organic is so strong, and it's genuine. And it's you go with who you trust and who you like. It's always been the rule of thumb.
Yeah, I think to be honest, with my Instagram channel, I've not actually sold. I've not done any kind of bottom of funnel content where I'm saying buy my design package or work with me. It's all useful information about an Amazon listing, optimization, branding, and people are following me for that instead of just trying
And
to
I think
sell
that's the
a
way.
service essentially.
I think that's the way because if they want to buy it, they will buy it. But the fact that they're interested in you and you're providing them value, it's much better. If you're asking them, I think you're already losing leverage on that. I do the same with my content. Like it's all education. It's all about the space right now. But I don't really say come to us or
Yeah.
sign with us, because it doesn't work. If people want to come to you, they will.
Yeah, I think Alex Hormozy said there's like it's like is it 70-30, where 70% of the content that you put out is educational.
Yeah,
It's free advice. It's helping people out, and then maybe there's the other 30%, which is buy my book.
yeah.
And obviously overnight, I think that the last book he did, I think it's like the highest grossing book of all time or something
So yeah,
crazy like that.
it
But
was great. 100
he's
million
great. I mean, he
downloads.
gives away so much good information and guides, and there's podcasts and so much content online about him that people trust him. So when he does go to sell something like his book, it's just an instant buy for people.
Yeah. It's the level of trust is paramount, from brands to person to personality and services. Charlie, thank you for coming here. It's been very
No, my pleasure.
enjoyable.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, I don't want to keep you for too long. I know you have a busy day. On Instagram, they can find you as Charlie CVR, right?
Yeah, charlie.cvr_.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. And your website is similar.
Yeah, cvr-studios.com. And
Great,
yeah, you can obviously check out all our portfolio on there, and yeah, services that we offer.
amazing. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Charlie.
No,
And
thank you.
thank you.